Welcome to this episode of your favorite interior design podcast. I'm your host, Stephanie Stewart, interior designer, over-the-top maximalist, and firm believer that animal print, when done well, should be considered a neutral. This podcast is for anybody that has ever looked around their space and thought, this is shit. You deserve better. And through my eclectic career, including multifamily housing, hospitality, senior living, and high-end residential, I've learned that confidence is key. We'll be here each week with industry experts to share their experiences and motivate you to take action and create a space that feels good and makes you proud. I promise it'll be a little bit cussy, a lot sassy, and we'll have a ton of fun. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of your favorite interior design podcast. As usual, I'm Stephanie, your host, and today we have Niki Milliken on with us. We're going to be talking about interior design and accessory dwelling units and all the things partnering up with contractors and, just the regular things that we like to talk about here to inspire you to work on your own projects. So I'm going to let Niki introduce herself. She and I have known each other for a while, and she's had a lot of things going on in different phases of her career. So go ahead, Niki, tell us about yourself.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. And I think I have kind of a sordid past when it comes to this industry. I definitely started out designing model homes and then ended up in the commercial sector after the kind of the scare of 2008 to 2011. I ended up becoming a rep. And worked directly for a manufacturer like you, Freeform.
Yeah.
And then had my daughter and decided to kind of go back to the residential market and got lucky enough to land a couple of great contracts with local builders that specialize in accessory dwelling units. So that's kind of where I am at today.
Sweet. Okay. So I was telling somebody about our interview. I was like, I'm so excited. Niki's coming on the podcast. Everyone knows you. And they're like, oh, what are you guys going to talk about? She's another interior designer. You're an interior designer. I'm like, well, what aren't we going to talk about? Number one, but number two, we're going to, focus on ADUs. And they were like, what is an ADU? And it blew my mind, number one, because I know what that is and you know what that is, but it just reminds me that in the industry, we have our own language and we like to use our own language and jargon a lot. But for anyone who doesn't know what an ADU is, it's an accessory dwelling unit. I know you just said that, Niki, but here in Arizona, we always just call them casitas.
Totally. And I think that that's so interesting, but the laws in California have drastically changed in the last few years, finally allowing Californians to go down this path. So legally defining what that structure is. It's an ADU. A lot of people know them as granny flats.
Yeah.
Also. So did I ever think I would be a granny flat designer? No, not at all.
Super cool. If anyone's curious what kind of design they want to go into, granny flats is one direction.
Definitely was not covered in school, but but it's really fascinating to see how this little addition to someone's property can enhance income, can welcome family members, can help out retirees. Really, I mean, trying to solve the housing crisis that's happening all over the country.
Right.
See obviously a lot in the Bay Area and in California.
So what did they do about, why do you have to call it an ADU in California? What's that all about?
I think it's defined, and I, don't quote me on this, but I think that there's, a main dwelling unit, an accessory dwelling unit, and the way that they define it on your property. A funny thing too, a lot of people, want to build an ADU, but then they don't want they don't want a kitchen. So part of the language is you have to have a permanent cooking space because this has to be where somebody can live. It's not just, and you're getting funding from the state to build ADUs. So if you define it as a guest house with no permanent cooking space, you're not going to get the same kind of funding if you're going to define it as an ADU. So it's really interesting and very, very technical. I obviously don't know all the legality that surrounds the laws, but that's kind of from my level, what I get with working from the architects on projects like this.
That's crazy. So, okay. So then let's talk about this, and you may or may not know the answer much. I might be barking up the wrong tree. But so like a mini house, what are the mini houses? A small
Tiny
house?
homes.
What?
Tiny homes.
Okay, yeah, tiny homes. The concept just doesn't. Sure, it's cute to me, but not really. Like I think I would never want to live in a tiny home. I would never seek out that lifestyle. But I know it's a big deal. People like it a lot, and I even had a friend that said they were going to buy land and create like a tiny home park, like instead of a mobile home park, it was like a tiny home park. And I'm like, that's so crazy. So are tiny homes also ADUs?
No, tiny homes are actually in a completely different category. Tiny homes are categorized as under 400 square feet. A lot of there's like two ways of looking at tiny homes. You'll see a lot of tiny homes on wheels, on trailers. And essentially when it's on a trailer or if it's a movable unit, you don't have to abide by the local permitting codes. But if it is a permanent structure and not considered movable on your land, you have to pull permits and do all that. So we are, and when I say we, I should say some of the builders that I work with do tiny homes. So they can get around a few of the legal codes, but not a lot unless it's on a trailer. So it's kind of interesting, but it's so funny that you said I would never live in a tiny home. I toured and designed a bunch of tiny homes. And the first time I went in one, because I'm really tall, 5'10", I definitely hit my head at least twice. Because they have lofts, they have, when you walk in, it's like it's very tight. And some people, like the minimalists, the people that want to be out in nature, they're only using this to sleep. Like that is their journey. It is not mine, which is fine.
Well, they're beautiful. Don't get me wrong. You told me a while ago that you were doing tiny homes and I was like, that's so cool. Like, what is she designing? I don't even get it. So I actually found a tiny home manufacturer. Are they manufacturers, builders, whatever they are?
Yeah.
And here in Phoenix, and I went in and they, I chatted up with them like, hey, what's up with this tiny home stuff? And they were like, come on back, come check out my space. And I'm like, what? And it was, I think it was called Uncharted Tiny Homes or something. We'll have to tag them or post them. And if I said the name wrong, sorry guys, but they were so nice and so welcoming. And they're like, yeah, come check it out. We do all the design and we do the building and they're beautiful inside.
Yeah, it's cool because you can get away with a lot of like really cool design elements. I mean, something you see a lot, which isn't super practical, is like the butcher block countertops, but like it adds a little bit of warmth to the space. And then what I found out, which is really interesting, is a lot of the tiny home builders / manufacturers prefer doing a wall like shiplap versus drywall because it's less heavy. So, when you're towing this tiny home, all that extra weight actually counts. Yeah. So, you get these like really stunning detail interiors because it's such a small space and you can take a really expensive material like shiplap and really get a big bang for your buck. But also on the other end of it, like it makes a lot of sense when you're kind of assembling this big piece together.
Yeah, to have all these like kind of prefab parts, but not like prefab in the sense of like FRP or which is, what does FRP stand for? Fiberglass.
I didn't think you were going to do FRP is, I should know this.
I don't know. Somebody Google it and then put it in the comments somewhere on something. And then we'll add it to the show notes or I'll Google it after. But anyways, FRP is really ugly plastic prefab stuff that is like the minimum basic code for, wet walls in
oh, I know. Bathrooms. I hate it so much.
But yes, so you're using like prefabricated pieces. And I was going to ask you that too. Literally, that was going to be my next question was when you're doing, like when you're doing a mobile home or, stuff like that, they have to use very light materials. And so they're a little bit like kind of rinky or maybe pingy. I don't know. You touch things and they move a little bit, but these tiny homes are not like that. They're really like
not at all.
like a full house.
Yeah. And a lot of people are not moving them because you'll see a lot of people get into their properties and they build decks around them.
Okay. So people probably don't move them a lot, right?
Yeah. I don't see like a lot of the clients I ended up working with, you'll see they like get there. Okay. First of all, they have land specifically in mind for this. They get them on the property and they build other structures next to them, nearby or around them, like a deck or something that kind of comes up because, being on a trailer, these are super high off the ground.
Wow.
It just allows you to get around a lot of those codes and permits because it's not a permanent structure and it can be moved. So all really important things to think about if you're like building a tiny home community, and like it's going to be a challenge for like somebody who's ADA to get into a space like that, almost impossible.
Yeah.
It's going to be so compact. You don't have like turning radiuses. You're not going to have ramps because the ramps will be way too steep. So
Right.
yeah,
It would be like a ramp all the way around the whole entire thing, like
it'd
just to
have
get
to
up
be.
in order to like find the slope. Yeah, that's true. I did have to like climb into that one. But we've been doing some other properties too that have different type of accessory dwelling units that are like, actual permanent structures. So like above the garage, or again, like I mentioned here in Arizona, people live here like 50% of the time. And also we do have an older population because the weather is so great.
Yeah.
And, you take that element out of aging if you don't have to worry about any weather issues. So, a lot of people live here, and the golf is great. Oh my God. I love Arizona. I don't care if it's 108 outside right now. But it's July, we're expecting it, and I'm inside the air conditioning. But I think, there's a lot of people that have those extra properties, and one, they use them for their in-laws to come, or they use it as an Airbnb and kind of do it that, or I always say Airbnb is a generic term for short-term rental. Apparently we're supposed to use short-term rental now because there's all different kinds of short-term rentals, but I'm not inclusive. I'm not inclusive. I'm just calling them Airbnbs. But anyways, so what type of ADUs are you seeing the most of?
Gosh, I think it's really a 50-50 split. A lot of investors, a lot of people have already have homes, and they're building onto these homes. They're taking garages and they're converting them. And then the other half, it's for their aging parent. Or I'd say it's also really interesting. I see a lot of parents allowing their kids to build an ADU on their property, and either the parents are moving to the ADU or the kids are living in the ADU with their families.
Well,
so it's
I instantly thought for your teenager, like I would love to put my teenager in the back in an ADU. That sounds great, but you're talking about grown-ups, right? You're really
I have seen one gal, she designed it for her two girls, and they were both like 12 and 14.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is great. And it was cool. It had a loft. It was really funky. It was fun. Yeah.
Oh my God.
So it happens. I'm not that nice. I'm a mom.
I think it's a gift for me. I think it would be more for me than for my kids, like, oh, go,
I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna lock you out. I love you, but I need a moment.
I'll know. We have surveillance all over the property. We'll know who comes and goes. There are boundaries. We have rules, but you go do you back over there, and we'll be up here. Oh my gosh. Okay. So when you start these projects, we talk a lot about, and you and I have discussed this too, like getting designers in early on the project. And of course, as designers, we're partial, and, it's our dream come true. But do you find that you're brought in from clients, or do you see yourself being, partnering with GCs? What happens most in your workflow?
Right now, I'm partnering with the builder. It's not even the GC. It's the builder facilitating the sale, selling the unit, sending me the information, and then I'm reaching out to the client and being like, hey, this builder has X, Y, and Z standards. I want to meet with you. I want to figure out your hopes and dreams and wishes within your budget for this project. And then I put together, actually, me and my business partner, Laura Doyle, we put together spec projects, or spec packets, I should say, that goes straight to the builder with the client approval, so that it can be handed to the GC for execution. Because, and as tiny as these spaces are, like the tinier little details are going to make a bigger difference. Like if you I've seen pictures of ADUs with like beautiful finishes, everything is in line. But then I see another picture where like they have a black faucet and like a brushed nickel air gap, and then a pendant light that's gold. And I'm like, whoa, this is so busy for such a tiny little kitchen. Like if everything was one finish, it would just look so much more cohesive. It would feel like such a better environment. And I think those little things, those tiny little details, when you get down to the final moments of like trying to pass inspection and get your occupancy certificate, the subs and the contractors are going to run to Home Depot and they're going to grab what they forgot and whatever finish they can find to just pass inspection. They're not thinking about the style, the color, how this goes with everything else, which is why you need a designer, why you need that like eye, and like why you need to have those conversations with people.
Well, and you totally just brought something up that like I hadn't even thought about, because I'm a huge fan of mixing metals, and I'm sure, you know, a lot of people are, but in a space like that, it's not appropriate. And there's a very different kind of design for each space. And sometimes you mix metals and sometimes you don't. And sometimes there's very clear reasons why. That for this example, you know, for sure, maybe you don't want these things to stand out because it's such a small space that those kind of just need to be fixtures and be functional, whereas other things you want to stand out.
Absolutely. And I'm with you. I like mixing metals too, but I feel like it has to be the right metals. And it has to be, like you said, right for the space. So it doesn't look like visually overly busy. Otherwise, it's just like a mess. And it does look like someone ran to Home Depot, bought everything on sale and slapped it on the wall.
For sure.
I love a good sale, don't get me wrong, but not like that.
For sure. Well, and then let's just talk about plumbing fixtures on sale real quick. I just want to take a little tangent, because plumbing fixtures are not all created equal, right? One might be black and another one might be black on the outside, but on the inside, you know, one of them is plastic parts and the other one is, you know, actual metal parts. And what's the finish made of, right? I think we've all seen doorknobs, especially in the antique bronze age, where you would have all the finish rubbed off because it was low quality. And at some point, you know, at a beginning point, when the finish starts to rub off, it's kind of cute and, you know, character, just like copper when it weathers is cute, is vintage, right? But then when it's fully rubbed off and now it's brass and there's no antique to it, that, you know, it's a problem. And it's the same thing about spending your money and investing in a project, a property, getting a designer, getting a developer, getting a GC, you know, having land to do this thing. And then you end up running to the store to get whatever's available. That just, it's not the right choice.
Yeah. Also, you hit on something too. Like a lot of these projects that I've worked on, like they don't have a huge budget. So if you do really want to elevate your space, like you have to realize that you're going to end up spending more money. You're going to end up doing the upgrades. If you want, you know, name brand fixtures, plumbing fixtures, you're going to end up over that like allotment, because the builders are tagging, or I shouldn't say tagging, they're giving you a budget and it's usually very minimal. So like if this is a true investment property where you don't want to have a lot of issues, you don't want to be running in there replacing things, be ready to spend a little bit more money than they're allotting for you. I think it'll be worth it in the end, especially a rental property where you don't have to do as much upkeep later on.
That's a really good point, because it's the same thing in all building, right? It's either upfront cost or it's a long-term cost. And fair, you know, somebody's building a small ADU or, you know, any project, everybody has a budget, whether or not they say it, but please give us the budget. Just tell us the budget. Okay?
Why is that so hard?
It's not, is it? Why is it so hard? Why don't they give
I love one of, there's this gal, Michelle Lynn. I'm sure you've heard of her. She does this like business bakery. Anyway, she had the best tagline. She goes, you know, you always ask people for a budget. Like, what's your budget? Nobody ever knows. So she goes like this. She goes, say, what is your budget? Or do you need help defining one? And I love that. It like disarms. She's like, it like kind of disarms people and makes them feel like a little bit less on the defense, because I think a lot of the time when interior design is a luxury, and a lot of people realize that, and they get afraid to tell us their budget because they think we're going to spend all their money like super fast and super quick. Like, that is not why we need the budget. We want to make sure we're being respectful of what you are comfortable spending. That's it. I mean, I don't want to make anyone feel like they have to spend more money than they've told me. That's not my job. But I want to try and give you what you want in your budget. And if it's going to go outside your budget, I'll tell you. But I'm not going to just like go on a shopping spree without your permission and do stuff that you're not okay with.
100%. And the thing about the budget is, I love that. What is your budget, or do you need help finding one? That's going to be all over everything from now on, because
Yeah.
it's beautiful, because there does need to be a baseline. And
Yeah.
I totally get it. Just like what you said, it's the value of what it is. Right. And so we say rob Peter to pay Paul. Right. So, hey, we just got this carpet on sale. Guess what? It's half price because, blah, blah, blah. Now we have a little bit more for that light fixture that you didn't have in the budget, but you really, really want. And that's the whole goal of the budget, is to give us a baseline of where we're shopping. I mean, I know which vendors to go to. If you say that you want a $200 chandelier, I know where I'm going. If you say that you have $1,000 for your entry chandelier, I know where else I'm going. But if I go to the $1,000 chandelier store instead of the $200 chandelier store, then you're going to be disappointed, because I'm going to tell you this chandelier is $1,000, and you're going to say, oh, well, I can't afford that, or it's not in our budget. And it doesn't
And
matter.
nobody wants to waste your time or our time. We're just trying to get it nailed down for you as precisely as possible. So
and our time is their time. They're paying us for our time.
Exactly.
So it's their budget that's getting blown by not, I would say, just giving it boundaries. A budget is a boundary, or, some people don't like that word either. So a budget is a bumper zone, or
it's a bubble. It's a happy little bubble. We don't want to pop your bubble. We want to be happy together in the bubble.
In the bubble. So I love it. I'm gonna
in the pretty little shiny bubble.
In the bubble. So we're going to use whatever happy words we need to on this big girl job of spending your hundreds of thousands of dollars. No. But anyways, I like, that's perfect. So we talked about, so we talked about the finishes in the tiny homes, or in the ADUs, and then how people use them. What else are you seeing any? I don't always love talking about trends, because we know I don't really follow trends.
I know. I know it's hard.
I know. Are you seeing a lot of one thing or another?
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny, like last year, I feel like it was like the season of blue kitchen cabinets. I don't know why. I don't know if there was like, a famous designer doing a lot of blue cabinets, but that was really, really popular.
It was me. I was doing them. It was me.
I knew it.
Just kidding.
This year, I'm seeing a lot of requests for earth tones in the kitchen, like that sage green cabinet, or like a really beautiful, like soft sand color on the cabinets. And that's been like the most requests. Mixed metals are getting like more and more popular. Which is really fun if done in like the correct way.
Right.
And that's like the only area really in these ADUs where you get to like punch in a little bit of color, is like in the kitchen, and then sometimes in the bathroom, because there's a lot of like standard options that people are selecting that are very neutral, because they generally don't always have the funds to go to the upgrades, which is fine too.
Well, and it's such a small space. It really is a small space, right? The number of selections does go down. It's like kind of doing a room instead of doing a whole house, so it kind of changes things. Well, I also remember, I didn't remember this until you said in your bio, but switching gears a little bit to model homes. I think that model home design is fascinating, because it's kind of not realistic, is it?
No, it's like, I have to tell you, that was like my first job out of school. I was an assistant designer, and I was on a team, but my core responsibility was accessorizing the house.
Okay.
Which was so fun. I was so young. They gave me a credit card. They gave me a budget for each home.
A bubble to stay in, maybe?
They gave me a bubble. And they just said, figure it out. And I had a blast, because you are working with a builder. It's really up to you. They don't care what you do as long as it looks amazing. There is no end user. There's no emotion in it.
Yeah.
It was my introduction into the design world, which was probably not great.
Removing all the wait. So you removed the drama as your first job?
I know.
Why? That sounds epic. Damn that 24 or 2008 recession.
I did love doing model homes. And I would go back. I would definitely go back to doing models. I think it's just a really, fun place to be, especially because each model had the max amount of upgrades because they wanted
Right.
to show off
For sure.
what could be done.
I worked with a designer that did model homes at another job. I never did them, but she would tell me, like the fake food stuff. So we then
The fake food.
but you've got to go to a special place, right?
Yes.
And then there's like a fake TV store. I mean, I don't think
Yep.
they have it anymore. They probably put in real TVs now, but because they're not as, no, you think they put in fake TVs still?
I don't think that they do. And I'll tell you why. There is so much theft and vandalism that happens in the models because they're not monitored at all times. Like we had to glue everything.
That's what she was telling me. Hot glue the
Yeah.
stuff or glue it down to the tables.
E6000 was
E6000. Yeah, we use that in design school for our mood boards, like actual
yeah.
physical samples on foam core.
Yep. And then we had to like hog tie the towels to the towel racks so people
Yeah.
wouldn't rip them off. And a lot of times we would get called back in to re-accessorize because all the accessories had been stolen.
That's insane.
It's sad.
And okay, she also told me some tricks that I loved, was with the towels in the bathrooms. Like, you guys would use those like guns that they use at the retail stores to hold the tags on.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So, yep.
Go, you tell me.
I was gonna say okay, so the company I worked for, we did the hog tie. We didn't do the tags. The hog tie is a metal. It's a metal piece.
What is that?
Plastic piece. It's like there's like a little like gun that comes with it, and you take this like metal U and you cinch it all down and squish it all together in the back.
Shut up. It's like a hardcore staple or something.
Yeah, it doesn't go through.
Yeah.
It just holds it all together so it doesn't damage the actual towel.
Okay, but these are tricks like so I got one of those guns, those like retail guns where you put where you put the tags on there, they have the clear plastic things or whatever. And I use it in my house. So I roll up the towels and then I, stick the thing through like on the backs or whatever. And when we do models, so when we do a multifamily housing project, there's usually, 3 apartment models in there. Mm-hmm. And so we use it for the models. I use it for so many things. Oh, when I make gifts, I make gift baskets. I love that. So anyways, if anybody needs to know how to keep things straight, use the hog tie thing.
I never thought about it to do.
You can get them online. I took it to this presentation. I did a presentation for realtors, and it was about staging. So it was like for them to be able to stage somebody's house that didn't do full staging, where they could just kind of zhuzh it up a little bit. And I was like, get one of these guns. And so I'm like showing them how to fold the towels, and they're like, doing the thing. And so they all stay neat together. You don't have to worry about re-rolling them. But when the kids use those actual towels, it's murder. I'm like, don't touch the rolled towels because they are permanent. They're not for your use.
They're all connected.
They're all they pick one up and they all pick up and like they can't even use it. Oh my gosh, when they're dirty, I'm so mad. But anyways, I guess that's first world problems. Anyways, but working in model homes also, and similar to what you're talking about, like working with a builder is so I just am speechless about it. Like, it's just so much better for everybody to like have that whole team, because what happens when they don't have a designer there? What would they do?
I don't know. I don't know many builders that don't many big builders that are doing like really big housing developments that don't have a designer or don't have some sort of design center where people can go and visit. I mean, that's been pretty normal up here. Where I live, they're still building like crazy, and there's always usually like a little office with 3 models and somebody there to like talk you through it.
But doing the things that you're doing now is completely different than that. And I like to explain that to people, because I think a lot of people build their first house in a development like that, right? They like get a Pulte home or a Richmond America, or I don't even know the names of the builders anymore, but it's different when you're doing a custom home or like an addition, like what you're doing with, some of the ADUs, because it's not a prefab deal. You need all of that information. So if people have built a house before in a community and they've had a design center, it's really important to understand that that's exactly opposite of what's happening when you have an independent architect or builder and you're adding on to something.
Yeah, it's completely different. I mean, there's like a different set of rules. There's you, but you also have a lot more control.
Right.
Walk into a builder, it's like you've got floor plan A, B, and C. You've
Right.
got these finishes to choose from. If you want to go outside of that, like you're just going to pay through the nose, which
Right.
is their business model, and then that works. But it's just not like you said, building a custom home or doing an addition. It's a completely different experience for sure.
And I've had people, a little bit confused about that because when you build a home, even with a builder and you go into the design center, there are so many choices, right? But when you don't have a design center to be limited to, literally the sky's the limit. And usually the builders do kind of help you narrow it down because you do have a budget, and that's very serious conversation that you have. You don't have to talk about it as a bubble or help them find one. There's a budget and it's what it is. And you're right. If you deviate from the 5 choices of cabinetry, then the price jumps and jumps. And so you can rein it back in pretty quickly. Out in the wild of building whatever you want, with an independent designer like yourself or like me, you can do what you can. There's hundreds of thousands of choices, and it just can be overwhelming. And so who makes those choices,
Yeah, and I think like for some people, working with a builder is the best thing that they can do because they don't want to be met with decision fatigue, even though you will get to that place, maybe not as quickly.
Right.
And then for other people, you can tell when you're talking to people who would be a good fit for this, who has the time and the dedication and the eye for the detail where they really want to have a hand in everything. Like that's an ideal client for, to pick an independent designer, an independent architect, an architecture firm. You want something unique and different. You don't want something that you see on Pinterest or, you want the Architectural Digest on the block.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. I think, and design can come in at all levels and all facets, which is like so fascinating and interesting, but can also be very confusing.
Right. So when you start working with a client, where do you start with them? Do you have them look?
Yeah, that's a good question. I start with a Zoom meeting just to have like a really frank conversation and to start just like I start by looking at their plans. I can't even tell you. I would say like 85% of the time I pull up their plans and they're like, "What's this? What's that? I don't know what this is." And I'm like, "Okay, let's just get it all out on the table." I'll walk them through the electrical plan. I'll tell them their budget basically.
Yeah.
And if you're comfortable going over this, or you want a special appliance, like this is your allotment, and really break it down for them so they can get somewhat of a feeling for if they want to upgrade. I have people be like, nope, not at all, nothing. And I have other people that want to price everything out.
Right.
Which is fine. It's like, if you have 30 grand to drop on upgrades, let's do it.
Yeah.
Why not?
Sure. I can spend 30 grand as fast as I can spend 10. So we'll just go to the 30 grand store instead of the 10 grand store.
Exactly. So yeah, it is a process. And then what I do is I like put something together and then offer to like meet them with everything kind of laid out. And some people want to meet, some people don't. It just depends on if they're too busy, where they're located. Some of these I do out of state. So I'll end up mailing samples for approval.
Right.
It's just kind of all across the board.
And let's talk about mailing samples for approval. How many times have you heard somebody say, well, it looks different on the picture? Yeah, it sure as hell looks different on the picture. I mean, come on, my monitor on the left looks different than my monitor on the right, looks different than my phone, let alone my printer, and then the real tile comes and you're like, oh shit, that's not the right gray, so you've got it. I love that you mail the samples out too. I have a client and I was like, they travel, they do half time here in Arizona and the other half out of state. And they were like, oh, well, we're going to be leaving on this day. And I'm like, okay, well, if that changes ahead of time, let me know. Cause I need to pack up your samples a week ahead of time to get them mailed over to your new, location. Cause this is a big presentation coming up. So The other
I
thing
mail what I can, I mail what I can, like
right.
within reason, but I always preface it with like, hey, I did this concept board, I pull this together, but like it's gonna look different in person, especially like paint, for example.
For sure. No, I know. Yes. I mean, you can't mail it all, of course. That's not, that's not realistic. But the other awesome thing about it too is I like to give my clients a sample set for them to show their contractor. Now, how often that happens, I don't know if they actually use it or not, but I've given it to them. But then the contractor can, say, oh, did this thing that got ordered show up correctly? Because I mean, I have to admit, I've ordered mustard yellow vinyl on accident before, transposing two numbers, and it got air freighted over and rushed in. And luckily the superintendent, who's now my husband, called and said, hey, I don't think this is what you wanted because it's hideous. And I'm like, well, I do some pretty ugly things sometimes because that's my style, but not that one. You're right. I did not want that. So luckily it didn't get installed. But, then also if something discontinued, they can take the sample to their vendors or local vendors and they can say, we just need something similar to this. And
that's my hope. I have this underlying fear that they're going to go back to their warehouse, they're going to pull extra from what they didn't sell on the last project and try and sell it on this project so that they can make a buck.
Yeah.
And like that is so frustrating. However, we've like interior design as an industry has like evolved into this like e-design phase where it's not full service.
Right.
So like, the designer is getting less and less control over the entire process. So it happens when, the client, oh, I got this on sale. We swapped it out. It looked the same, but now I don't like the way that it looks with everything that you picked out. And I'm like, but you went off script. So
you went off script. Again, a similar situation. And it's like, if it is e-design, or, if somebody wants to stay in their bubble and not, pay the extra service to have the designer come out and put the furniture in, or have the designer come out and do whatever, they make their own reselections, and it can be scary. I mean, I know interior design is not serious. I mean, it's like fun is my core value, right? But I don't want, it can go bad. I mean, it can go really bad. Let's be real. I had somebody tell me she ordered a sofa and she never saw the install, and it came back like this, like a really like a blush pink. And sure, nothing's wrong with that, but it didn't fit. It was completely wrong. So she followed up with the client, like literally, I don't know, 4 weeks later or something, and said, oh, hey, how's the sofa? And they're like, well, it's nice, it's comfortable, but we're just still trying to get used to the color. And she's like, what do you mean? And then they take a picture. She's like, that's the wrong color, but the factory made it wrong,
and they didn't question it.
And they didn't question it. And so there's just so many things. If you don't do the full process, or if you don't see the end result, you can't be there during construction to help make those reselections, then you can, kind of run into some big trouble, there.
Yeah. Or you have somebody on the job, like a sub, who wants to just help and get it done quicker, and the tile you picked isn't going to arrive soon enough, so they go and pick something up at Home Depot that's on sale. You know what I mean? And like, I get it. I get that there's a project timeline. I get people just want to like get done to get paid, but like then the design intent gets blown out of the water. And everything, like I like to explain it, like when I send a client something and they start like picking apart certain things, I'm like, all of these things that I put together are connected.
Very.
So the second you start removing things, like a lot of other things have to shift too.
Right.
It's not just I don't like that sofa and I hate these chairs. It's like, okay, well, we got to look at the paint color, then we got to look at the wall covering, we got to change the rug. The art doesn't go anymore either. So it's like a bigger process than I think people realize.
It's such a big process. When you, even something as small as a prefab vanity, there's a lot of beautiful prefab vanities out there, and they come with the countertop. Well, you don't get a sample of that countertop. So is it white? Is it cream?
And a lot of them don't come with backsplashes or side splashes.
They
So what are you
no.
going to
Oh
do?
my God.
What are you going to do?
You know what? I was drawing up one as a sample, like an idea of a spec package. And I was like, oh, what's the backsplash? So I start digging into the specs and I see it doesn't have a backsplash. And I'm like, okay, so now this inexpensive flip package that I was putting together for somebody, it was like if a realtor, it was like if a realtor like walks into a space and the bathroom is hideous, they can say to their client, okay, here's 10 pieces. Here's the things you need to get to just redo this bathroom. Super, super simple, inexpensive.
Yeah.
Well, now they need a whole wall of tile backsplash.
I know, because you're not going to put up like a weird little strip of like this gorgeous tile. I
No.
just hate it. I hate it.
Well,
Like,
and
when in doubt, go custom.
does that tile match? Does that tile
I mean,
match?
not always. Are the whites the same white, or do they complement each other? Is one a little bit more cream? I
It
don't
makes a
know.
big, and you're right, because does the white on the counter, now does the sink match? Is it an integral sink? What what white is your sink versus what white your prefab counter is? So
Yeah.
we're going to pause here or repeat our caution on prefab vanities. We just
Ugh.
identified like 6 things. They're beautiful. They come with a lot of
They
designs
work in like a half bath.
in a
I
half. Yes.
where there's not a lot of high use and you want like maybe you can do like a really really gorgeous wallpaper that's like maybe a vinyl or something. I
Yeah.
know that that's like a faux pas word in our industry,
Yeah.
but something that'll absorb the
Right.
splashing of the water. And like
Or you're going to do the whole
yeah.
wall in tile and you're
Yeah,
going to
yeah,
invest
or
in
that's
that.
already in the budget for
Yeah.
sure. I love that look. I just had a project finish up. It's being photographed, and we did like the whole back wall is all in this like really beautiful chevron tile, and it's stunning. I think that that elevates the space so much.
It is so fun, but there's no check if a backsplash. You've got to read the specifications. You've got to read all the specifications. And if
Yeah.
anybody wonders why it takes us so long to do our designs, it's because we're reading all the specifications.
And
Because
like
that's our job.
I hate to like, okay, so you buy a prefabricated vanity for like a small little niche area,
Yeah.
and then you've got like, let's say you just have like these half-inch little gaps
Yeah.
sides. Well, how are you going to get back there if something drops?
Yeah. How are you
Just
going to clean
wondering.
back there?
I'm asking for a friend because it would drive me nuts.
Yeah.
And yeah. And what if it like goes flat to the ground? So you don't have any raised legs, so you can't get underneath it. What are you going to do?
I had a client specifically ask when we were doing the cabinetry to have enough space for a Swiffer. So a Swiffer is like 4 inches or something, but she's like, I need to be able to get on the sides of this cabinet. So it needs to at least have 4 inches, because it was a space where whatever, it was custom and blah, blah, blah. It wasn't going all the way to the edges, but she's like, at least a Swiffer space. But that was her criteria to me, was to be able to get into the sides, because she was thinking about cleaning it and managing it and taking care of it.
Totally. That's smart. I mean, it's good to have stuff like that on a list when you're talking to a designer, because we don't live with you every day.
Right.
We don't know who cleaned your house. We're not going to know like the patterns of the space and how you use it. Like, it's really important to help have those things defined.
Here's a funny conversation that I have with clients, and this is on my checklist, that we talk about toilets, because I want to know do you want a comfort height toilet? Do you do squats? Are your legs sore? You want to go all the way down to a small one? Do you want elongated seats? Do you want soft closed lids? Yeah,
yes,
you do.
Yes. I want all of those things. I'm super tall. I am not even, I just don't I don't want to fall onto the toilet. Like
I'm only 5'2". I'm only 5'2", and my dream come true when we moved into this house is that they're all comfort height toilets, but except for one. And so I'm going to get that changed soon. Actually, I'm going to put that on my to-do list, because I've been talking. I think I've said that to somebody like 3 times in the last month about that one toilet. So I need to get that changed. It's on my list.
I was going to say, I noticed when we moved into this house, my daughter's toilet is just like a little bit lower, and it feels like I'm falling. It feels like I'm falling backwards, and it's so uncomfortable.
But those are the things, if you spend thousands of dollars on a space, And that's the one thing you're going to think about every time. You're not going to say, oh, look at my beautiful chandelier, or look at my beautiful backsplash. You're going to be like, I can't get behind the side of it's so dirty back there. There's hair or dust. So anyways, but those are the things is, sometimes if it doesn't, if you're uncomfortable, or if you don't notice it, it's good design. So sometimes it doesn't have to be the most stunning or beautiful or whiz bang space. If it's functioning, you feel really good there and you just nailed it. As a designer, you nailed it.
Yeah. I like that. I think it's important too, because you see all these. I love when you said if it's good design, you don't notice it.
Yeah.
Because I have a lot of clients that want to like redo certain things, but then they don't want to redo like the backsplash in their home. And but we got to work with this. We can't make it look like the black sheep in your space. Like it all has to kind of go together. So it's important to think about that stuff too.
Okay. We have to do this together. I just came up with this and now I'm going to be held accountable because it's going to be out there like wherever, but I'm going to do a series called like, you can't keep that. And it's going to be, like, I don't know what format. Maybe it'll be What?
I want to do this with you.
Yes.
It'll be like a regular.
It's gonna be no, you can't keep that. Month. And it's gonna be like either burning stuff or like whatever. It's like, no, you can't keep your backsplash. Like, no, nope, you can't. Sorry. Like that's a deal breaker for me. Or no, you can't keep your sofa. No, your sofa takes up
Are you talking about the sofa?
Yes. The sofa, right? Like
the embroidered sofa.
Yes, all the colors. It takes up the most real estate in the entire room.
So that's where your eye is going to go.
And so anything else you do isn't going to change how you feel in that room.
Yeah, because it's such a big offensive thing in the room.
So it's like, I don't know if I'm going to I'm not going to out people, and like, I get it. But also I'll like own shit. Like if I want to keep something I don't like, I'm like, I know not everyone likes this, but I love it. And then we move on. But it's like, if you're trying to do a total transformation, or if you like say you want something, like, no. And also, oh, I know. No, you can't keep your mattress for 25 years. That's gross. You can't.
It's also like really bad for your back.
Yes, it's really bad for your back.
It's like wearing shoes for 25 years. That's what it's like. They're done. It's slept out.
It's over.
There's no more sleep to be had on this. And you probably know that because you are in pain.
And you're grumpy. You're grumpy because you want to keep your mattress for 20. No, you can't keep. So it's, I don't know, what should we call it? Like, just no, you can't keep that. And like, I don't know, but I want to burn stuff.
#, ew.
Oh my God, this is my favorite. Oh my God, we're gonna do this. We got to maybe we can do a few episodes, or but I think we should burn stuff and like sledgehammer stuff. Like
I will come out to Arizona just to burn shit with you.
Yeah. So, okay, this is what you have to do. Maybe we can do an ugly sofa challenge. I saw that one time years ago.
So fun on Instagram just to like see people post.
Yeah. So, but people would it was a giveaway. So it was a furniture store. And so people would send in pictures of their ugly sofa, and they were doing a giveaway for a sofa. We should do that. How do you do giveaways on Instagram?
I don't know. I think you would have to do some sort of like, I think it would be more successful on TikTok, to be honest with you.
Ew, are you on TikTok?
No.
Blasphemy. Don't say that on here. I have
that's where all the kids aren't buying sofas. So let me so we can do it on Instagram or Facebook.
Chop. Somebody edit that out.
Oh God.
I don't know.
Who would have to be like a reel with a hashtag, and then that's how you would like, I don't know. I'm not a media person, Stephanie.
Okay. Oh my God. Okay. What is it called? You can't keep that. Ew.
Ew. You can't keep that.
Ew. You can't keep that. Oh my God. I gotta write it down or else I won't remember. Okay. Well, I've had so much fun. My cheeks hurt from laughing. but our listeners are annoyed. But I always tell everyone, listen to it on 1.5 because nobody has time for a 1 hour podcast, especially with me, you know, like goofing off with my friends. So anyways, if anybody wants to find you, Niki, where can they find you if they want to work with you?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a new website. So a friend of mine and I started our own little new business. It's called Design Lane, but it's abbreviated LN
Okay.
for Niki. So it's designln.com. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram. We're just ramping up our social media because this is a new venture, but I'm
Sweet.
also on Pinterest and Instagram under Miss Picky Niki. That's MRSSPIKINIKI. A little complicated, but play on words. Yeah, and so we're excited for this, and I love design and I love how it's evolving, and I haven't left the industry yet. So
I know
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I keep circling back. So.
No, I think it's great. Well, you've done so many good things, so you have so much experience, and it's been so much fun. We are definitely going to have to do that. You can't keep that series. I mean, we just let it out of the bag, so now we're held accountable.
Yep.
But you're in Northern California, right? But you also work nationwide.
Yes, yeah. So I'm based in Northern California, but I've done projects in Utah, Arizona, and Idaho.
Sweet.
And I just connected with a new company in Texas. So we're
Sweet.
hoping to offer our services all over the country.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been fun, and we've got a formula kind of nailed down. And of course, we also want to do some other fun custom projects. So I love a good challenge. I love a good design challenge. So, and
Yeah.
so does
Well, I love that about you, how, you know, like kind of what you're doing now, that you guys, are working really closely with builders and, you know, GCs, and kind of like taking that burden off of their hands, right? So that they don't have to do that heavy lifting. And you're like, here's a design package, you know, on a silver platter with a bow. So anyways, I just want to make sure to mention that because I don't want people to miss the opportunity if they're, you know, in your area, or if they are interested in working on any of these kind of projects, to be able to, know that. And that also that, you know, builders and GCs can reach out to you too. It doesn't have to be just somebody that's interested in building. You know, it's nice to have that partnership. But.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're happy to be the person or the people that, you know, focuses on the details for you.
Yeah, sweet. Okay, well, thanks for coming on, and thanks everyone for listening to this episode.
Thanks so much, Stephanie. Have a great day.
Thank you for joining us today. If you loved this episode, please take a moment to leave a 5-star review on your podcast app. You'll be entered in our monthly giveaway for a special gift. Share this episode by taking a screenshot and sharing it on your favorite social app. And don't forget to tag us at Stewart Design Co. and let your friends know where they can get interior design support too. Remember, a year from now, you'll wish you had started today.